What's up, people? I'm Shaggy, the Opinionated Hippie, continuing my deep dive into every single available live Frank Zappa show that's not only officially released, as is the case with this one, but anywhere out there in for me, the cassette world, from back in my tape trading days in the 90s and 2000s. But today, I started with the third leg of the Summer Fall 74 tour, because that is my favorite tour. And I thought I would start strong and then mix it up with, and then kind of things I don't like and things I do like and mix it up to keep it interesting for me. But today we have November 12th, 1974, Erie, Pennsylvania, the show that is contained on the Zappa Erie box set. Yes, I've already done this when the Zappa Erie box set came out, but I wanted to do it again in the order that I'm doing it in and not skip any shows. So I've not gone back and watched that video, so I don't know. I'm sure I absolutely loved it the first time. I've loved it since it was released. I was super excited when it came out. But yeah, I'm going to rant and rave about it again. I have glasses on because I have this thing called blepharitis. This eye is all red. Plus, it looks better. I'm managing it well. Thank you for all your comments and concern. But because of the light, I am going to wear sunglasses. Plus, nobody wants to see a red eye. And I have additional light on now because it is kind of hard to see my notes with the sunglasses on inside. So, but anyways, there's a lot of names you could give this show. You could call it the Frank Has the Flu, and he's going to tell the audience during Tush 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 that he's going to breathe millions upon millions of water vapors into the air and get everybody sick. Then he's going to proceed to kind of cough every so often throughout the show. But as with previous shows, he is in no way going to let it affect his guitar solos, because he is going to bring some absolutely ridiculous guitar solos. We could call this the Camel Show, because we got a lot of camel references going on here. And I was trying to figure out if maybe there was a specific moment of inspiration. And I found that the band Camel was actually touring this part of the United States in late 74. And so maybe they saw a poster or a sign for an advertisement for Camel. I think they might have been I don't think they were playing the same venue, but they were playing Pennsylvania. So maybe they saw a poster for Camel and that was the inspiration for that. But I'm not going to call it the Camel Show or the Frank Zappa is Sick show. I'm going to call this the Tom Fowler is a Beast show, because more than anything, the officially released version of this show, Tom Fowler is in the mix in like an absolutely amazing way. And a lot of these shows, like the one moment when you can kind of hear Fowler better than anything for some reason, or during George Duke's solos, like the Redunzel solo and the Inca Road solos particularly. But he is so present in so much stuff, and it just is amazing. My favorite bass player from Frank, he just sounds better than ever. You realize what a valuable asset he is to this absolutely perfect band. This is the band that has Ruth, Chester, Napoleon, George, Frank, and then Tom. Just an absolutely beast of a band. Or you could call this the sit-down show, because Frank spends a lot of time telling the audience to sit down. Apparently, maybe it was like a general admission show and he wanted people to sit on the floor because the people on the wall are not sitting down. And there's issues. At one point, Frank's like really angrily yelling at somebody. And all I can say is, if you're going to see an artist and that artist has been in a show in which an idiot with a flare gun shot the place to the ground, or he has been pushed off stage and had to be in a wheelchair and he's lost some of his register in his voice, and now one leg is shorter than the other like a regular zombie hoof, you got to respect that artist when he tells you to sit down. And unfortunately, these children that Frank has to babysit, as he says in the show, are causing problems. So maybe they should have respected him. It's also a show, sorry I haven't even gotten to the songs yet, but it is also a show in which Frank stops the show a lot to yell at these people and to get them to sit down. And so if you're not a fan of like stopping and starting and stuff like that, this is not the show for you. However, a couple of those times when he stops it, the way they then come out of it, it's just magical. Just magical to my ears. 74, it's going to open up with a tush 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 Stinkfoot, as all of them do. Frank almost immediately in Tush 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 is already telling people to sit down. He tells them that we're sick. We completely stop the song at one point so Frank can tune. Still kind of surprised that his guitar is not already tuned when the show begins. Then we get a Stinkfoot, and in the previous shows when Frank's been sick, his Stinkfoot solos have been kind of like rough. That first attack, that brief little solo between verses before we get to the main solo, already you're like, oh yeah, Frank's engaged. He's ready. He's learned. He's going to channel this flu energy into some really aggressive solos. It's a fantastic opening solo. And then when we go into the actual solo, it's just fantastic. It's kind of patient, it's kind of funky, it's exploratory, it's got your weird typical 74, oh no, is it going to fall apart rhythmically, but it doesn't. And then as it falls apart, we get some really interesting ideas as everybody's flailing around, trying to coalesce around a groove. Yeah, it's weird, but it's Stinkfoot. It's absolutely fantastic. And we do get right after his, at one point in the vocals, Frank's like, oh no, this audience is full of lovely girls, but they're about this old. And then I think Napoleon goes, jail. So never a fan of that. But anyways, yeah, we're very, very aware of the Booger Bears in the audience tonight, the groupies. We get a Redunzel. We get the Redunzel Village, Echidnas, Don't You Ever sequence next. The Redunzel is fantastic. Frank's solo is good. Just your typical normal kind of, he's engaged in the solo from the beginning. He goes really, at one point it seems like it's going to fall apart. Like he's got a really strong start that feels like your typical Redunzel. Like he's got a plan from start to finish. We'll get your typical 3-minute Redunzel solo. He kind of starts flailing at one point, gets a little sloppy. Then he goes to these really deep low notes. And then we just get pockets of like, wait, what? What is happening here? In your typical 74 cents. But I think it's really a lot more engaging than some of the solos we've had recently from Frank. Just especially that part when he just starts playing those really, really, really low notes for a while. That's good. And then George's solo is fantastic. We can get a he can share some dog. Every holiday has got a kennel in the back of it, but we're sharing some dog now. Marty apparently is going to share his dog. Not the best Redunzel of any leg of this tour, but a worthy Redunzel. I think Frank's solo struggles from the previous shows, we're starting to find more of our voice again. We're starting to, I don't know, it feels a little more competent. Village sounds great. Nappy's solo feels a little bit different. It feels like he's approaching it from a slightly different angle. Absolutely sounds good. We get the Village. We get always a great Echidnas Are for View. Don't You Ever Wash That Thing. Frank's solo in Don't You Ever Wash That Thing is fantastic. It's like, 30 seconds long, 40 seconds long, but it's really good and really kind of focused and good and kind of weird at the end. But every time Frank's picking up the guitar now, he sounds good. And then we get more Ruth abuse when we go into the ladies and gentlemen, watch Ruth. Ruth has been thinking, Frank, please don't make me play Inca Roads this show because Ruth has been chumping it. So again, he's got to throw a dig at Ruth for making one or two probably minor mistakes while playing super, super hard songs. On a live stage in 74 when she probably can't even hear what the rest of the band is doing. You need to not go so hard on her. Penguin in Bondage, we get the Penguin Tremershi dog meet girl sequence next. Immediately in Penguin in Bondage, Frank is yelling, sit down at people. We stop a Penguin in Bondage at one point because Chester is not up on the duck call that they use in this song. And so they stop it while Chester finds the duck call, and then they do the duck call. Frank's solo in this is Penguin and Cosmic Debris, I think, are two of the most consistently, like, you can rely on these solos to be pretty epic in 74. Something about sort of maybe just the more straightforward kind of blues-ish vamp that is played. Frank just finds maybe comfort in, and so he's not trying to push the boundaries as he does in like Redunzel or Inca, Montana, those other solos. This is a solid Penguin, not one of the better Penguins of the tour. Then we get the Tremershi dog meet girl segment. Then we go in and we get some more sit down, please, yelling at the audience. We get a dynamo hum. The audience, even before they start playing Dynamo Hum, the audience starts clapping along, and Frank tells them that they're clapping too fast, and then he starts playing those opening chords. And when they drop into the song, it sounds, maybe it's just because I'm used to hearing so many later period Dynamo Hums, even though I've been listening to a lot of 74, it seems a little bit slower, a little more like, couldn't say where she was coming from, but I just met a lady named Dynamo Hum. It just feels a little bit slow, but I kind of like it that way. We get the audience participation, in which the audience is told to simulate having the big O. Then Frank complains that that a whole bunch of people are not simulating having the big O. So we get that. Then we get I'm Not Satisfied. And then about 40 seconds into this, Frank's yelling, stop that, quite angrily at somebody in the crowd. At one point, we just stop playing the song altogether. Something is happening in the audience. Frank's telling people to like calm down, cool it. Something's happening. I don't know if they're clearing out troublemakers or there's chaos going on in the arena. The band completely stops playing at some point. They never finish I'm Not Satisfied. And at one point, in one of the truly great musical moments, they start Montana by Fowler just coming in, playing the bass line like boom, boom, just doo doo doom. And then the band comes in. We don't get the da 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 intro. We just get Fowler starting it on bass. And I'm telling you, that is the way every single Montana should start. It is so cool. It is so epic. It gives the song a whole different vibe. Great melodic solo just from start to finish. Frank it just sounds good. Sounds amazing. Frank's engaged. Not one of the more epic Montana solos, but it's a good Montana solo. We get a riding a camel reference there. Some camels first start popping up here in Montana. We stop the song at one point to yell at the audience some more, but then we actually do finally finish the song. After that, we get George hitting his finger, hitting a tiny little cymbal and hurting himself. Frank informs us that George probably should be getting an Academy Award for his performance in this one. That is how good George apparently is doing. We get a lot of riding the camel references in here. We get the camel has a hump jam, in which you're like, the camel has a hump. Camel has a hump. Pretty fun, somewhat different sounding George / the Booger Band / pre-Montana jam. It's not quite as funky as some of the other ones. Maybe just a little more reminiscent of some of the jams when Humphreys was a drummer back before Thompson joined up, when it was more of a weird kind of prog rocky type vibe instead of a funky vibe. We still got a little bit of funk in there because this band has just got funk in its DNA. But yeah, it's a pretty interesting George. And then we get a Dupree's. We go into Dupree's. Nappy's first solo is just absolutely fantastic. Dramatic and drawn out, and then he's playing with all the effects, and it gets crazy and chaotic. Napoleon Murphy Brock, you could say that a lot of his sax solos kind of go over the same ground a lot, and he's using some of the same effects, but I don't care. They sound absolutely fantastic every time, and the sound on this is fantastic. We get a Fowler bass solo. We get some drum action. And then for Frank Zappa solo, it is a really interesting, 5 or 6 minutes of guitar playing, but I don't know if you would call it an actual solo. He starts playing some Zoodaloo chords, then he's messing around with the big Swifty motif, and then he's kind of searching for ideas. It's your typical beginning of a Dupree's Paradise solo, when he's just kind of like toying around at first before he kind of finds an idea that he wants to commit to. But the idea he finds this time is the Any Downers riff. Da-da-da-da, ba, da-da-da-da, ba. And we just get this really, really low-key, not really any extended soloing at any point for the last 3 minutes. It's just Frank messing around with the Any Downers riff, sometimes riffing off some licks really quickly. Maybe there's a 30-second segment where he's actually got a solo and he's actually doing something, but he's just kind of fooling around the entire time. if Frank were ever to like, if ZFT or whoever's doing Frank's releases now, if they were ever to do like a box set of great solos, like a guitar or Shut Up and Play Your Guitar from 74, this would not be included. It doesn't feel like a solo. It feels like 4 or 5 minutes of just fooling around. But that is why I love this tour, because in this fooling around, we get Zoot Allures prior to Zoot Allures being released, played, recorded. We get Big Swifty, yeah, Call Back to the Past. We get Any Downers, like Any Downers wouldn't be released for like, half a decade later. And the way this band interacts and the way the rest of the band responds to whatever Frank's up to, I don't know. I just think it's magical. Then we get a Don't Eat the Yellow Snow, which another different release of this with a different mix. So just certain things always pop out differently, like certain instruments, certain little percussion bits. I think that's one of the great joys in this. Pretty much the same Don't Eat the Yellow Snow that they've been doing all tour. And then for our encore, we get Oh No, Son of Orange County, More Trouble Every Day. And it's a pretty standard version of those. We get some sort of Richard Nixon references in the Oh No lyrics. The Son of Orange County solos and More Trouble are pretty solid solos. They're just too short. I mean, if you go back to earlier in the year, these are like epic, like prog masterpiece solos that just kind of seem to go on forever. Frank's got ideas. These Son of Orange County and More Trouble always seem to bring out the best in his guitar solos, but they're just a little too short. They're frustratingly short. Maybe not even frustratingly short. They're just like, he had it. He found it. Just go longer. But they do come at the end of what is a pretty long show, and he does have the flu. And when they finally wrap up and he reintroduces the band, he introduces himself as the Human Snow Wad Himself on guitar. So yeah, the Human Snow Wad Himself. I love this release. I love this show. There are moments on other shows in which the guitar solos are better. There are moments on other shows, such as the Boston show previous to this that I talked about with the whole Tom Waits thing, which I think are just a little more epic moments. But from start to finish, the unnecessary stops, the Frank yelling at the audience, that Montana intro, the quality of the solos, the Camel references, the whole Camel jam with George is hilarious. This is my favorite show that I've listened to so far from this tour. The sound quality probably has a lot to do with it, but it's really, really easy to listen to this show. And so if I had to rank these shows, I have it at number 1. It's hard to divorce the sound quality from, everything else just because that is part of the experience. But yeah, I think this is absolutely fantastic. I think if that Boston show had soundboard quality from start to finish, I might, but these 1 and 2 are pretty close. 1 and 2 are definitively 1 and 2 at this point for me on this tour. But I would put this at number 1. It's just, I love listening to this. I love the aggression of the solos early on. Again, that Montana I love. The Camel jam I love. I do think that this, the pre-Montana jam with George is better here than it is in that Boston show. So that's another reason this might pop up. But yeah, and I do like the ending of this. I do like the ending of the Duprees with the Any Downers jam. So yeah, those are my thoughts on this show. I'm assuming it's on YouTube, but it's also on streaming media. You can also get this with another fantastic early 74 show and the 76 show and the Zappa Erie box set. But yeah, I highly recommend checking this out if you have not. This is I would say a somewhat typical snapshot of the really weird, random, at times chaotic vibe of summer, fall 74. But yeah, that's all I got. Thanks for watching. Subscribe, like, share, comment. Let me know your thoughts on these shows. Thanks for tolerating the sunglasses and the random eye. And yeah, all right. We got one more officially released show from this tour, a couple shows down. But we also have some really, really, really good shows coming up soon from this tour that are just absolutely Zappa at his best. But anyways, until next week, as far as Frank Zappa and the Mothers of Invention go, peace. Talk to you later.